Welcome to the Thought Foundry. You're walking through life surrounded by noise, not sound. Noise, the kind that tells you who to be, what to wear, what to chase, who to please. From the moment you're born, society hands you a script. Be agreeable, be likable, be useful, be normal. And if you dare to deviate, you're labeled arrogant, cold, difficult. But here's the truth no one told you. Self-respect is rebellion. And in a world that profits off your insecurity, it's also the most dangerous thing you can possess. Most people mistake confidence for arrogance. They confuse humility with submission. And they think being kind means never saying no. But self-respect, it's not about being loud or aggressive. It's about knowing where you end and where others begin. It's drawing boundaries that protect your peace. It's saying no, not because I'm angry, but because I value myself too much to say yes. Here's the psychology most people miss. Self-respect isn't about ego. It's about clarity. Clarity about your values, your worth, and your limits. Let's get brutally honest. You were trained, yes, trained, to doubt yourself. Every advertisement is designed to sell you an insecurity. You're not attractive enough, not successful enough, not connected enough. And guess what? They always have a product to fix it. Social media, it teaches you that your value is external. Likes, comments, shares, metrics that measure your worth in pixels. Even school taught obedience, not self-respect. You were rewarded for silence, punished for individuality. You were taught to compete, not to connect, to chase gold stars, not purpose. So if you've lost your sense of self, it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to get it back. People-pleasing feels like safety. It feels like control, but really, it's emotional self-abandonment. Every time you say yes when you mean no, every time you silence yourself to avoid conflict, every time you shrink to make someone else comfortable, you teach your nervous system that your needs don't matter. And over time, you start to believe it. You become agreeable, predictable, manipulatable, not because you're weak, but because you forgot who you are without the approval. But what happens when you remember? Get quiet, really quiet, because underneath the noise, your real voice is still there. Start by asking uncomfortable questions. What do I tolerate that drains me? Where do I betray myself to avoid judgment? Who am I trying to impress, and why? Then listen, without judgment, without flinching. That's where the rebuild begins. Boundaries aren't walls, they're filters. They let in what nourishes and block what harms. Setting boundaries is not selfish, it's self-protective. And in a manipulative world, protecting your energy is a sacred act. Here's a hard truth. Not every emotion deserves your reaction. Not every opinion deserves your attention. Emotional detachment doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you've mastered the art of choosing what you feel for. You can care deeply without being consumed. You can be kind without being controlled. You don't need to explain yourself to everyone. You don't need to justify your boundaries. You don't need to defend your peace. Sometimes, the most powerful move is silence. Let's be clear. Manipulators feed on access. Access to your time, your energy, your guilt. They need you unsure, because the moment you become self-assured, they lose control. You see through the gaslighting. You stop responding to emotional bait. You become immune to guilt tripping. You become untouchable. Here are the traits that make you psychologically unshakable. 1. Stillness over stimulation. You're not addicted to constant validation. You don't need noise to feel alive. 2. Discernment over drama. You don't react. You choose your responses with precision. 3. Direction over distraction. You know what matters, so you're not easily pulled off course by gossip, trends, or fear. 4. Solitude over codependency. You're at peace alone, so you don't cling to connections that cost your dignity. 5. Presence over performance. You don't perform for approval. You simply exist, fully, unapologetically. This is the power of psychological independence. And yes, it's dangerous, because systems built on insecurity can't control someone who knows their worth. Here's the paradox. The more you respect yourself, the more others begin to respect you too. Not because you demand it, but because your energy demands it, silently. You don't chase admiration, but people admire your calm. You don't beg for attention, but people notice your presence. You don't try to lead, but people follow your example. This isn't ego, it's energy, and energy speaks louder than words. In a world that's constantly asking you to prove yourself, what if your power lies in not needing to? What if the greatest rebellion isn't being loud, but being rooted? What if your peace is your loudest statement. Self-respect isn't a trend. It's a lifestyle, a discipline, a path to psychological freedom. And once you walk that path, you don't go back, because you've tasted a kind of inner strength that can't be bought, faked, or manipulated. So stop shrinking. Stop apologizing. Stop explaining your existence. Build your self-respect like a fortress. One boundary, one decision, one silent no at a time. And when they ask why you're so calm, so clear, so immune to chaos, just smile and walk away. If this hits something deep inside you, share this with someone who's forgotten their power. What's one thing you're ready to stop tolerating? And remember, you don't have to be loud to be dangerous. You just have to be real. Stay sharp, stay grounded, stay untouchable. Every day, we make thousands of small choices. What to check first, what mood to resist, what voice to silence. These moments shape who you become. Self-respect isn't just a mindset. It's a practice rooted in rituals. Begin each day with a moment of stillness. No phone. Ask, today, will I serve my values or my habits? Set your internal compass. Truth greater than comfort, courage greater than complacency. Even a 5-minute ritual recalibrates your mental operating system. It reminds you, your standards matter. Before the world demands your energy. Pause midday for clarity. Notice what you're doing out of obligation versus intention. If you're chasing validation, a like, a reaction, a win, ask, is this serving me or feeding someone else's system? This moment returns you to your own agency. Journal questions like, oh, where did I play small today? Oh, where did I honor myself? Oh, how did I protect my peace? Capture progress, not perfection. Over time, these questions sharpen your decision-making muscle. Trust builds when decisions align with values consistently. We're taught to internalize judgments, but true self-reliance means building walls that let truth in and defensiveness out. Let's build that. Feel your emotions, but don't fuse with them. Shame, anger, rejection, they pass through you, not define you. Practice. When you catch shame, say, there's shame, but I am not shame. Result, you observe emotion instead of reacting through it. Naming reduces suffering. Write down, I feel X because of Y. It separates you from transient emotional storms. Example, they insulted me. Their judgment reflects their insecurity. This frees you from needing to silence all external noise. React, respond, or retreat. Ego demand, react. A grounded self, respond. When peace is at stake, strategic retreat. Emotional immunity isn't stoicism, it's structure. So that emotions don't structure you. You want impact, but not at the cost of character. You choose influence that aligns. These are the 3 pillars. Share what matters without oversharing. Example, you deliver feedback. I respect you and think you can improve. Let me be clear why it works. Honesty builds trust. Boundaries maintain your self-respect. People respect clarity, even when it's hard. Understand motives, not just emotions. A parent shifting tone, not tone deaf. A manager reassigning a task, not punishing. Case study, Nelson Mandela. Strategy in action. He empathized with white South Africans. They saw him not as conqueror, but as leader. Outcome, he peacefully dismantled apartheid. Influence isn't fireworks, it's foundation. People respect patterns, not peaks. Make predictable choices aligned with your values. Example, a friend who never cancels on promises, reliable, quietly respected. That's influence. We've discussed solitude as a state of being. Now, solitude as a strategic tool. Solitude creates cognitive space. You stop reacting to stimuli and remember who you are. Spending time alone isn't loneliness, it's incubation. Use solitude before major decisions. Options become clarity, emotions solidify. Example, Steve Jobs would walk long paths to think through product decisions. Solitude fueling clarity. Isolation isn't the goal. The goal, return with integrity intact. Who you share your energy with matters. Are they encouragers or energy vampires? Respect's echo chamber sustains you or tempts you to shrink. You can be present without wanting approval. Join the conversation as an observer first. Speak only if it aligns with your values, not to fit in. Untouchable doesn't mean unapproachable. People will come to you, not because they need you, but because they respect you. Presence is magnetic. Ego is aggressive. When one person consistently acts from integrity, they shift culture. In your workplace, trust becomes the baseline. In your family, boundaries become modeled. In your community, self-reliance inspires healthy independence. You don't need a title to lead. You just need to live the example. You'll pay misunderstanding, loneliness, challenges to your value. But the real cost is small compared to living a life defined by others. The result: peace knows your name. Clarity whispers in chaos. Confidence isn't loud. It's quiet and unbreakable. What if the world isn't missing noise, but missing clarity? What if true power isn't what you take, but who you become? Self-respect isn't selfish. It's the foundation from which true influence, honesty, and resilience emerge. So choose to become untouchable, not unkind. Choose sovereignty without isolation. Choose to walk through the noise and still carry yourself. Reflect below. 1. What's one small ritual you'll start today to rebuild your self-respect? 2. What boundary have you been afraid to set, but know you need? If this inspired you to remember your power and your peace, share it. Let's build a generation that's quietly unbreakable. What if the next revolution won't be loud? What if it won't look like crowds in the street, waving flags, shouting slogans? What if it looks like something much quieter? A person sitting in silence, turning off the noise, choosing to listen, not to others, but to themselves. That's the revolution that terrifies the world, because it's not built on rebellion, but on refusal. Refusal to conform, refusal to participate in noise, refusal to be distracted from your own mind. And here's the paradox. The more you know yourself, the less the world can sell you who you're supposed to be. You ever wonder why it feels almost impossible to sit in silence for more than 10 minutes? It's not by accident. Entire industries exist to make sure your attention is never fully yours. Push notifications, streaming queues, endless feeds. The moment silence creeps in, something pings. It's not just a convenience, it's control. Because stillness leads to clarity, and clarity, that's a threat to systems that profit from confusion. If you can't be alone with your thoughts, you'll never know which thoughts are truly yours. And if you can't tell what's yours and what's programmed, how will you ever make decisions that reflect who you really are? The dangerous loner isn't just alone, they're aware. They've escaped the maze of noise, and that's what makes them untouchable. Let's talk about psychological sovereignty. What does that mean? It's when your emotions, your thoughts, and your values belong to you, and not to your parents, your past, or the platform you scroll every day. You are the only person in your head. You are the only one who has lived your exact life. So why should the world dictate how you see it? The world wants obedient minds, but a sovereign mind, that's revolutionary. Here's how you build it. Daily silence. Schedule it like a meeting. Journaling without filter. No aesthetic, no perfection, just truth. Question everything, even the beliefs that comfort you, especially those. And most of all, learn to observe yourself like a stranger. Because once you can watch your own thoughts without identifying with them, you start to see where you've been manipulated. And the moment you realize that, you're free. We've been taught that humans are pack animals, that we need the tribe to survive, that we're safer in groups. And in a purely physical sense, that may be true. But psychological safety, that's something else. Because sometimes the tribe turns on you. Sometimes the group forces silence. Sometimes belonging becomes a leash. And here's what they don't teach you in school. You don't find yourself in the group. You find yourself when you step away from it. The dangerous loner doesn't hate people. They just don't need them to define who they are. And that's what makes them so powerful. Because when you're not desperate to fit in, you begin to act from truth, not fear. You begin to build a life that's designed, not inherited. And that, right there, is how a person becomes unbreakable. Solitude isn't just silence, it's construction. Every moment alone is a brick, a wall you build against confusion, a tower that gives you vision others don't have. So how do you build it? Without it, every goal, every dream, every relationship is just guesswork. Ask yourself the real questions. What do I value? What am I afraid to admit? What have I never questioned? Not what your parents told you, not what social media shows you, but what your soul keeps whispering when the world goes quiet. Stop outsourcing your feelings. Someone ignores you, you spiral. Someone praises you, you rise. That's not control. That's emotional slavery. The dangerous loner learns to become the thermostat, not the thermometer. They set their own temperature, and when the world gets cold, they don't shiver, they adapt. When your emotional state is independent of others' behavior, you become psychologically bulletproof. It's not just about being alone, it's what you do with that solitude. Every great philosopher, warrior, artist had one thing in common. They practiced mental discipline, They train their minds like athletes train muscles, not just with books, but with reflection, not just with silence, but with deliberate confrontation. Because the mind left untrained, it becomes a prisoner to impulse. Sit for 15 minutes, no phone, no noise. Just breathe and notice every thought without reacting. At first, it'll feel like chaos, but soon you'll start noticing patterns. And once you see those patterns, you can change them. Comfort is the silent killer of clarity. Why? Because it gives you just enough satisfaction to stop asking hard questions. Comfort convinces you that the job you hate is stable, that the relationship that drains you is normal, that the scrolling is rest. But the dangerous loner, they sacrifice comfort for clarity. They choose to see what most hide from, and in doing so, they earn something far more valuable than ease. Freedom. Don't chase comfort, chase clarity, because clarity becomes power. This path isn't pretty, it's not glamorous, and it won't win you applause. You'll lose people, you'll be misunderstood, you'll have moments where the silence feels unbearable. But here's what you'll gain: unshakable clarity when others are lost in doubt, emotional stability when others ride the roller coaster, true relationships built on want, not need, and a mind that belongs to no one but you. That's the price of freedom. Not everyone will pay it, but those who do become dangerous. You become the thought partner, not the checkbox. In relationships, choose your presence over your presence for approval. Be the listener who doesn't have to jump in. Conversation becomes deeper because you don't speak to fill silence. In your community, volunteer with intention, not to be seen, but to be useful. Mentor quietly. Influence grows not in the spotlight, it grows in the vacuum after the spotlight leaves. Nobody stays perfect. Even the strongest minds wobble. You binge social media. You tolerate bad boundaries. You feel lost in the noise again. But here's why solitude is not a fortress. It's a home you can return to when you slip. 1. Pause social feeds. 2. Return to journaling. 3. Repeat your morning clarity question. 4th, recommit to the next silence. Because discipline isn't never failing, it's falling, then choosing yourself again. You're not just building your mind, you're influencing ecosystems. Your children learn independence. Your colleagues learn integrity. Your network learns stillness is impactful. Each ripple along your path is a secret teaching. Silence matters. Depth matters. Not fitting in matters. At the end of your days, what will remain? A network of noise, or a mind that stayed sovereign? A history of validation, or a story of peace? Did you live in the world, or did you move through it, carrying your own center? Because in the end, your greatest achievement is not influence itself. It's the person you became while earning it. A person who led with clarity, not convenience. Who spoke from reflection, not reaction. Who gave from abundance, not dependency. Comment below. Where will you show up next? With intention, not instinct? Share this with someone who's learning to live by their own mind. Subscribe if you're building silent strength with us.